Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. So as part of the Simon Says Stamp card kit, I'm going to use one of the watercolor panels that's in there that you would have seen in a previous video where I showcased the actual kit itself. And I'm going to use some pearlescent watercolor paints to color it in, essentially, or paint it. So these are, I believe, Artist Loft watercolor, pearlescent watercolors. And I've had them for many years, and I'm on a bit of a watercolor kick at the moment, which you'll see in the next few videos. So I decided to drag out some of my different kinds of watercolor paints and just paint. So these don't have like specific colors on them, so even if I took note, which I didn't for watercoloring because I think it's more specific to you, but they don't actually have the names of the colors on the like palette or anything. So I just basically used all like the oranges, the greens, the reds, what I could find in there that was a brown, and maybe more of the orange yellows as well. And it's very easy. I also used the Waffle Flower A2 layering stencils, I think that's what they're called. They are super handy because they go down in increments, I think, of about 1/8 of an inch or something like that. So if you need like just a little border, they're perfect for that. So I think, anyway, don't quote me on that, but I think that's the increment they go down in. But there's loads of them in there, so I just used one of them sort of next size down and cut this panel down. Now this is one of the ones from the Simon Says Stamp October 2021 card kit, and it's already printed for you. It's printed onto some Tim Holtz watercolor paper and or cardstock, and it's so on the smooth side, so it's not the side that looks like that's got that sort of texture to it. So it's on the smooth side, but it's so nice to work with. I love this watercolor paper. I've had it for years. It's awesome. But you know me, I'll use anything, so I'll give anything a whirl. But these are printed onto Tim Holtz paper. And I'm just going around with I try to pick all the different colours or tones or shades of oranges and greens and that sort of thing, just so there's lots of variety on here. Bearing in mind these are pearlescent colours, so they are, once it dries, it's super pearlescent. You will see that. I'll do a slow cap at the end, which I normally do anyway on my videos. So if you stay tuned to the end, you'll see just how shimmery these things are. But they're very, very nice watercolors to work with. I find that some watercolors are too chalky, and I don't know quite what to do with those ones. I have some Artist Loft ones that are like that. They're very chalky, but they're not my favorite kind of watercolor paint. But pearlescent ones, these ones are beautiful. And you've seen some of the other watercolors that I use when I get round to using watercolors. You see those ones, and they're also some of my favorites. So it's just the chalky ones. I just don't know quite how to work with them. Don't know why, but yeah. Anyway, these are not chalky. These are very creamy in their sort of consistency and stuff. So just making my way around, trying not to put two of the same color next to each other, because yeah, that just in my head wouldn't make sense, even if it's a similar color. So trying to make sure there's a contrasting color next to, or you know, a different color next to it. And then there's all these other little like acorns, and I don't know what some of these other things are, but there's these other little things that you sometimes get that time of year. So, and they're all just scattered everywhere. Now what I did do, which is kind of silly, and I just afterwards was like kicking myself because obviously I only have one panel of this. The other thing I did manage to do was when I lined up my die to trim it down, and you can use a paper trimmer for this, you don't need a die for this, by the way, but what I did was I landed up looking at the edge of the images rather than the words. So my words are a little off. So you'll see what I'll do at the end just to try and counteract that. And then it's like, well, I purposefully did it that way. That's what we're telling everybody, right? And so, yeah, just bear that in mind whenever you've got something like this where you're trying to, you know, and it comes in a kit, it might not be, it probably was perfectly straight on the original piece, but when I went to use the die to cut it, I should have used the words as a guide rather than the image. So anyway, note to self. So again, just going around with some different reds. And the other thing I was doing is while the paint's still wet, I will drop in some other colours. So if I needed something that was maybe like, it was a bit too pale, then I'd grab a different colour, maybe a more brown tone or a red or something, and just drop it into the wet paint. While it's wet, it will start to sort of merge together. Is that the right word? Kind of like I'm doing here, where it'll just, you know, they'll sort of start to blend amongst themselves. And but when it dries, and I mostly left this one to air dry, it just does this cool thing. I think that's what I love about watercolor. It just does its own thing, and the best thing is to leave it, to let it do its own thing, because the more you fiddle and faff with it, I don't know, you lose some of that. So it's very difficult for me to do that, but it's I had 3 cards on the go, so it was easy for me just to put it to one side and film the next video for you guys. So but just getting lots of different, and also in autumn you have all these variations of colors in the leaves anyway, because they're changing. It's a change of season, so there's lots of different variations in the actual leaves themselves. So this kind of works, and it's kind of messy, but it's okay, doesn't matter. The background I'm actually going to leave white, because I just thought this is going to be one of those super simple, you know, if you had these as images to stamp, okay, you'd have to mask. So if you had a bunch of leaf stamps, you could do the same thing. You could have a big sentiment in the middle, and then as long as you mask off, say, some of your leaves, so they look like they're behind or in front of the other, and I've got videos on masking on my channel in the playlist, but if you want to do something like that, you could recreate something like this pretty easily. So don't feel that just because I've got this out of the kit, if you don't have the kit or you can't get the kit, don't worry, you can recreate the same sort of idea pretty easily. Oh, look at that. Right, so now that it's dry, I decided to use some foam tape on the back of the card. This is actually some shaker tape. This is a Crafter's Companion tape, and it's a really nice tape. It sticks really well. It's really sticky. But the only thing I will say about it is that backing is really quite difficult. I find it quite difficult to get off. So you'll see I'll have to faff for a bit to get the backings off. It wasn't too bad on this one, but there's a slightly shorter, if that's the right word, so not as high a foam that I also have, and it's harder to get off for some reason. So that's the only thing I will say. It's kind of tricky for me to get this off, but it's fine. It's nice tape, like I say, it sticks really well. So I thought, because the card has had some warping, because it naturally will because of the moisture from all the watercoloring, it needed a lot of tape, whether that's wet adhesive, a dry adhesive that is flat, or foam tape. So I was happy with that. And then to counteract, so my sentiment looks more level or straight, I actually twisted the front of the card, which is kind of my thing at the moment. I seem to be doing that a lot. So then it looks like it was done on purpose, which of course it was. But anyway, so you can see the shimmer that comes out of those paints. They also just, I don't know if I mentioned this, they are very inexpensive paints. So for me, bonus, do you know what I mean? So I hope you've enjoyed this, guys, and I'll be back with another one soon. Thanks, guys. Bye.